So there's been a range of issues with OpenFOAM over the last versions, especially 11 and 12. On the 9 version and version before, you could somewhat easily compile it from source in Linux distributions, or you could download it from using the Windows subsystem from Linux, especially Ubuntu, and then after some tweaking, it would work. But the versions 11 and 12, they have not been working for compilation in Linux for some reason. And one of the main issues also in Windows is ParaView, or the version of ParaView adapted to OpenFOAM, which is ParaFOAM. So in essence, even in Linux and especially using the Windows subsystem for Linux, the ParaView and ParaFoam had not been working. The workarounds suggested by the developers did not work. I have tried in several computers in Linux and Windows, and they do not work. I spent several hours trying to fix this, and one of the things is that even the ParaView developers do not recommend using ParaView and the Windows subsystems for Linux. So in several threads you see in the internet, they recommend not using ParaFoam or ParaView within the Windows subsystems for Linux. Well, if you're using only on Linux, Ubuntu, Debian, or Arch Linux, you can install ParaView for your Linux distribution, but in Ubuntu, for example, running with the Windows subsystem for Linux, because it's not supported, it will not work. So instead of trying to fix this issue, because we all have a lot of work to do and thesis to write and all of that, you can't just spend 3, 4, 5 days trying to fix this issue. So there is a workaround there. It's also recommended by the ParaView developers. And the workaround is actually installing ParaView on Windows and then calling the OpenFOAM files from your Ubuntu on Windows or another distribution on Windows subsystem for Linux. So here we have a typical installation of OpenFOAM, here the 12 in Ubuntu 24.04 on Windows subsystems from Linux. And when you try to run ParaView from inside here, you get display errors here, which is the most common ones. I have tried installing all the drivers. I have tried all the suggestions from the developers and nothing works. Same thing happens if I call ParaFoam from here. So what can you do? On the 9 version, the 9th OpenFOAM version, you could open the X launch here, the X in the Windows systems, and call in the X Windows systems here. It would work normally when I launch ParaFoam. So this is what you would do. You see the Edge system here, and for OpenFOAM 9, this would work normally, but it doesn't work. This solution doesn't work anymore for OpenFOAM 12. So what would you do? You can come and install ParaView on your Windows side of the system, not inside the Windows subsystem for Linux. Then you have ParaView installed here as a normal Windows program. Then what do? You run your OpenFOAM normally here, already downloaded here, copied the Pits Daily Steady example, run icofoam. So you can see here that I have the files here of the run. You can see this paraview.80 here. This comes from trying to run ParaView or ParaFoam from inside the systems. Every time I try to run those systems, those files, they do appear here. So what do? To run ParaView from outside the Windows subsystems for Linux, you have a .openfoam file here. How you get this? If you had OpenFOAM working, you just type ParaFoam here and everything worked fine. But for ParaView, you would need this file here to run from outside of ParaFoam. What you do is you type touch cavity, the name of the file that you of the case that you work in. So this will create the cavity.openfoam file, which it cannot be accessed from outside, from the Windows side of things. So what I could do here, I'll come to open ParaView, and one issue is that this probably could be solved fairly easily, but when I open here, when you first open, the path to the Ubuntu, to the Linux, is not here. So you can't access it directly through here. So what do? You come here to your Linux installation here, find where your files dot OpenFOAM file is. Mine here is in this part here. And what do? You come here, right click, copy address as text, and then you insert the path here on your ParaView running on Windows. And now you change here to all files. You're gonna see here your cavity.openfoam file. Click OK. It's gonna ask you which reader you want to use. So you come here, you're gonna see the OpenFOAM reader, and then you can process your files normally on the Windows side of things. One advantage is that in my experience, ParaView works better or has been working better on Windows than when I tried the installations on Linux. I have been using OpenFOAM on Debian for several years now, but it has been, since the last versions, has been a struggle to compile it, several bugs, and now this ParaView thing in the in the in the Linux and also in Windows issue has been really disappointing and really frustrating, because sometimes they put the blame on Windows or put the blame on ParaView or put the blame on OpenFOAM, and several people seem to be struggling with this issue. So you need some sort of standardization so that we can get a version that you can be compiled directly on Linux or Ubuntu or Windows that works straight off the box. I know that's difficult and that most people volunteer for this work, but probably better communication would help in this issue. And I urge you, the developers, to create and test versions for the other Linux distributions, especially Debian and Arch Linux, which are very good and stable uh, Linux distributions. The other thing is about Docker. The versions for Docker, they apparently they're not available anymore for OpenFOAM12. They work sort of okay. I understand the reason not to work for Docker, but it creates a lot of problems when you put the version and then you remove the version when when you put the possibility of using Docker, and then you remove the possibility when the later versions are added.